Hi there, I'm Patrick McMurray, aka Shucker Paddy, world champion and Guinness Book of World Records oyster shucker. So now I'm going to go through a couple of tips of the trade, how Shucker Paddy works over some oysters for efficiency and great looking oysters. First off, I like to set up my station for everything that I need. Of course, I need a shucking tray that's going to keep my station nice and clean. I can keep these shells in here. I have a little bowl of water. If I find an off oyster, I'm going to plunk it into the water, away we go. I have my fresh oysters over here and my finished oysters over there. This is a right-handed setup. If you're left-handed, I would flip the ice and the oysters the other way for most efficiency when you're shucking. I also like to keep a little bit of ice over top of the oysters, even though I just pulled it from the oyster bed. Keep a little ice on those oysters so that they are fresh and cold while you're shucking them. I have a fancy glove because I developed this a while ago. It protects against puncture wounds, but it also helps you hold on to the oyster better. You may not have said fancy glove, which is stainless steel. You can use a couple of surgical gloves. That's perfectly fine. Some people like to shuck in a towel, but when you use it, you have to make sure you have it. Keep it clean, keep it rinsed out, and then you have a multiple cloths ready to go at any time. I'm going to shuck on a station that looks like this. It reduces my linen. This is a little side note tip. To reduce your linen, you have 2 cloths per service as a regular chef. You can use the 2 cloths for your cleaning. I do not use any cloths when I'm shucking. When I have a glove like this, I will use a board like this. Keeps everything nice and clean. That's a side tip. So when I'm shucking oysters, I'll have my oysters set up and ready. I've got 2 different types here. I've got a smaller and a larger of beautiful Prince Edward Island oysters, and we'll start shucking. You've got to keep your eyes on the oyster first and foremost and shuck slowly. You want to shuck slow for safety. It's finesse, not force. We're not forcing the knife in. We are shucking with finesse. So I'm a hinge shucker using tabletop method, meaning I use a board on the tabletop and I'll hold the oyster with my oyster hand and shuck with my knife hand through the hinge. The hinge is the pointy part of the oyster at the back. It's got a great opening that you can open, easily insert the knife blade and open it. And I use the tabletop method because it's 3 points of contact. The table, the oyster knife, a hand, and then the oyster knife. That means it's more stable. This way I'm going to use less force to open up the oyster as well if it's fully stable. Don't let it wobble around. You hold the oyster like you mean it. Means you hold on to it, no wobbling. If you're holding it like this, it wobbles around too much. You want to shuck safely, so just like this. So hold it and then knife into the hinge. You're turning a key in a lock to pop it open. You're not forcing it. You're trying to wiggle your way in, and it's sort of a wiggle, wiggle, pop motion, where you wiggle it in until it sets, and you're going to listen for this. That pop means you've broken the hinge. At that point, you can pry it up, hold on to it. You're looking for the adductor muscle, which is 2/3 of the way up from the hinge on the right-hand side of the median. So right here is where the adductor muscle is. I'm putting my knife into this point here. So I'll pry it up, and I'll look down and scrape across the top to allow the oyster to be released. Take the shell, put it there. This is where you want to check for freshness. If you want to smell the oyster, my recommendation is to smell the shell. Think of it like a cork in a sommelier. You take this shell and you go, that smells perfectly fine. Super happy smells like the ocean, smells like a nice day at the beach in Prince Edward Island. That's what you're looking for. Look at the oyster. This oyster is full, fat, plump, and a lovely color of beige, even color all the way across. That's what you want to look at as well as a quality oyster. So it is in this position here. I'm going to turn the oyster 180 degrees. I sweep with my knife tip. I will sweep out any grit or any possible shell. That's the best way to do it, to remove anything. And that's usually just new shell growth. It's there naturally as the oyster grows. You'll find the little bits there. Remove that with your knife tip. The adductor muscle is where it's attached on the bottom. That's the only place you have to scrape on the bottom. And it's a hard scrape. It's not slicing. You're not trying to slice fish. You actually use it like a hockey stick on a hockey puck. You scrape and push that adductor muscle off. And once you see that little black spot, that oyster is loose and ready to go. Every Prince Edward Island oyster that you get on your plate is super safe, great, and delicious. Tastes like the ocean.